Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion from Pink Whisper Designs. I'm so excited today to be showing you the exclusive STAMPtember stamp set. This set is done in collaboration with Simon Says Stamps and Art Impressions. And look at this set, it's just so adorable. This set is called the Sweet Bday set. And look at these, all these donuts. It's just making me hungry. And you've got that set of donuts that's toppling over, and then you've got that separate set of donuts and some cute little sentiments as well, and these adorable little ladies. I'm going to show you how to modify this stamp set a little bit just to fit on the card that we're creating today. But first, let's go ahead and do our stamping. I've got some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock in my Mini Misty stamp positioner. I'm using my Stampendable stamp press to press that out. For coloring, we'll be using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and I'm starting off with the Sugared Almond Pink and the Peach Pink. And do keep in mind that these are water-based pens, so you could use your water brush to do your blending here as well. And I also want to mention this set is only available for a limited time. It's basically until it sells out. So if you really love it, you probably want to stop the video and go place your order. It's just going to be a fantastic little addition to your stamp collection. So we will continue coloring this in. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to modify this a little bit. We're going to create a crisscross card. So it will create almost like a little pocket, like a little envelope pocket. And with that, we're going to tuck in our sentiment inside that pocket, but you could also tuck a little gift card in there or some money or a photo, whatever you like to do. So this is fun because I think it has a lot of different possibilities to it. And in creating that crisscross design, I felt like all those donuts might be just a little too tall for the card that we were creating. So we're going to create the birthday card by using a few of the donuts from that little platter of donuts with the candle on top, and then a few of the donuts that the lady is holding in her hand. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. We're just going to cut away some of those extra ones. And this is a great way to look at all of your stamp sets. Really kind of look and see what you can do. If it doesn't necessarily fit the design you have in mind, think of different ways that you could adjust it so that it will. And in this case, this is a really easy fix. I'll show you that once we start doing our cutting. I'll show you how simple that is. So I've basically used the two pinks, and there I'm just pointing to, I don't even need to color in all of the donuts because we won't be using them all. For the base of each of the donuts, I'm using beige and mid-brown. Just use that mid-brown to bring in a few little shadows. And I'll do all the base of the donuts the same color. You could certainly do them in some dark browns for some chocolatey tones, but I decided just to stick with that beige and mid-brown, and I'll use that same combination of colors on these cups. Just kind of putting that shadow off to the right hand side and then pulling it over, and I did the other woman's cup the same way. Sticking with that beige color, and I'm only going to use the beige for her pants. I don't want them to get too dark, but I did want to bring in a little bit more of that color. And I'm going to just lay it down one side and then pull it over. Now, you can keep adding layers of color. Even if you're not using two colors, you can just add more of that beige and create more of a shadow. So you don't always have to have 2 or 3 colors to do your blending. And the zigs are very forgivable. They're really easy to move around, especially if you're using a smooth card base like the Strathmore Bristol Smooth card. It just kind of, I always say this, but it kind of keeps that ink floating up on top of the paper and gives you plenty of time to do that blending. You can also use a water brush with these pens because they are water-based. So if you prefer to use a water brush, that's definitely an option. I tend to grab the blender just because it's not quite as wet. It's a little bit more controlled as to how much fluid I have, and I find it really simple to blend with this. So now you can see I've switched over I'm using the light green and the dark green. And we're going to use those two colors to do a little bit of coloring and shadowing on her blouse. But later on, we're going to use gel pens to create some stripes on her blouse, and for the other woman, we're going to create some little polka dots. Now, typically I'll reach for my permanent marker to do that, but I thought the gel pens just added kind of an interesting texture, a little bit of a different look to the fabric. So I decided to go that route. I always say this though, you could certainly do some paper piecing here. If you're not loving your coloring, you could stamp these ladies onto some pattern papers. Just cut out the shirt and the pants and add them to the images. And that's another way to go. Now for this woman, I wanted her pants to be white, so I grabbed the light gray just to add a little shadowing and a little depth to those pants. I'll use that same light gray on the top of the cups. And then here I'm going to just add that same pink we used on her blouse. So let's quickly blend that out. If you get a little extra ink where you don't want it, and I think you saw me doing that there, you can lift it off the paper with your blender pen. So you just grab that ink and scribble it onto your scrap paper. Clean off that blender, go back and grab some more. So it's pretty forgiving as well. So now I did that first layer of frosting in the purple and the light violet, and then for this one I'm using the light blue and the Persian blue. And all the colors I'm using are listed in the upper left hand corner as we're going along. I also want to mention that any products I'm using today will be listed and linked down below, as well as on my blog. With the light gray, I'm going to do that platter in her hand, and then I'm going back to the same combination of greens to do her shoes. And for that candle, I'm going back to those same two purple tones. Just giving a little shadow off to the right and then kind of pulling that off to the left. And then with yellow and orange, I'll do the little flame on the candle. Now let's do the hair. We've got yellow and beige. And I'm going to lay that yellow down first and then add a little bit of beige just for some shadowing. Another thing I want to point out is the packaging is always so great for the art impression stamps and the collaboration stamps. You can refer to your packaging if you're not sure how to color these in or where you want to put your shading. Just refer back to that packaging and it will give you some fantastic ideas. I'll show you that packaging again a little bit later so you can take another look at it. And then with Sugared Almond Pink, I'm going to put a little pink on their cheeks, on their lips, and the tongue as well. And then with the flesh color, I'll do their skin. And with this, I'm usually pretty sparing with it. I add a little bit around the hairline and the jaw, and I just kind of pull in towards the center. But you can always go back and add a little bit more if you want some more shadowing. And then I like to lay down the pink on the cheeks first, and then once I'm done doing the blending on the rest of the face, then I'll come in and blend out the cheeks one more time. But I like to lay it down to start with. That way I don't forget to put it on, for one thing, and then it's easier to blend at the end, I find. With light gray and warm gray number 6, we'll color in this little lady's hair. And that light gray, you could use your lighter colors to do your blending as well. So if you don't want to use the blender, you could always grab one of your lighter shades of color. Here I could have used the light gray to do my blending. So that's another option for you. Now you can see I'm not going to cut out all of those donuts on this little platter. I'm just going to cut out that top one. But when I cut this out, I want to leave a little white border around the edges of the two sides and the top. I won't need that white edge at the bottom of the donut because we're going to be gluing this on that other stack. I will leave the white border around the sides of the donut and the candle because that's how we're going to be cutting out the rest of our images. So I want everything to line up nicely. So for the ladies, I'll leave that little white border, and I'm going to do as much detail as I can on this. So I kind of went up in between the two ladies there just to give it a little bit more detail. Now here you can see that I'm going to keep that top donut, the one that's not colored in. So we colored in the two at the bottom. And then now I can do my trimming, again leaving that little white border around those remaining donuts. And that top donut that I've left there is so that we have something to glue this single donut onto. So it's going to give us a place to glue that down. And you can see that's going to sit right up on top. So let's grab our Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and add that little donut at the top. Again, I wanted to do this just to show you that you can change up your images and make them fit the project that you're working on. So take a look at some of your stamp sets and have some fun with these. I do this a lot. I really enjoy kind of changing them up and personalizing them a little bit. Now here you can see I grabbed a pink gel pen for her shirt and this green one for this other lady's, for the stripes on her shirt. And I just love how that looks. It gives it kind of an interesting texture. It almost has like a satiny look to it. I'm going to use the white gel pen and a mixture of different color gel pens to add those sprinkles to the donuts. And then I will come in with the white gel pen and add some highlights. And I'm going to add some little white polka dots to her blouse as well. This is a great way to add highlights if you didn't feel like everything was perfect. This is a quick and easy way to add some of those highlights. And it really kind of makes everything pop a little bit. And there's that packaging that you could easily grab this and copy exactly what you see on the front of that. And I do love that because it does give you some ideas. And sometimes when you're not sure where to color, you know, the images are so tiny, sometimes I refer back to that just to make sure I'm coloring everything in properly. So there's those little white dots. And now let's take a closer look at the two little ladies, and they are just the sweetest things ever. So now I'm going to use some Hero Arts Hues Premium Cardstock. This one is called Kiwi, and it is a 100-pound cardstock. So I've taken a full sheet that's 8.5 by 11, and I cut it in half the long way at 4¼ inches. We need 2 panels. We're going to score each of these panels at 5.5 inches. And this will be our card base. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this now. So we've got that score line right down the center, and we're going to die cut this top one on an angle from that score line to the opposite corner. So from corner to corner, we're going to be creating a little triangle. So I'm lining up that score line with my cutter, and I'll cut down to that opposite corner. So let's go ahead and do that. And that little triangle that gets cut away, you can set that aside. And now we have the left side of our card. So let's go ahead and do the right side. So this will sit, I need it to go the opposite way. So I'm going to place this in my cutter again from score line to the opposite corner. And you can see that a little bit better here. And I'm placing the cutting blade right down that line. And we'll go ahead and cut that. And now you can see we have the 2 pieces we need for our card base. So let's go ahead and glue these together, and that will create that cute little pocket. It almost looks like an envelope, but we're going to kind of make it look a little bit like a file folder because I'm going to put a little tab for the inside card that's going to go in it, and it'll look a little bit like a file tab. So let's glue these 2 together. I'm just laying one over the other. So this card will measure 4¼ by 5.5. It'll be a standard A2 size card. So once I have that glued together, I'm just using my bone folder just to make sure everything is pressed out nicely. And now we'll put some patterned paper on those two triangles. This is the mini birthday paper pack from Art Impressions. I'm going to grab a few of those greens. I'm going to use the stripe for the inside of the pocket, and that I'm cutting down to 5¼ inches by 4 inches. Now I do want to make a little footnote here, and I'm going to cut this one down the same exact size. But for that first one, we will be cutting it down a little bit more later on. But I did start off with both of these at 5¼ by 4 inches. And you can see that one will fit inside. And this piece, this plaid, has the happy birthday sentiment on the back of it. So when I cut this in half, we can use the plaid for the left side of the card and then flip it over and use the happy birthday sentiments for the right hand side of the card. So again, I'm cutting it corner to corner. And now we can flip this one over because using a double-sided paper makes this really easy. And so now I can line both of these up on the front panels. Going back to that same glue. Now, one thing I do want to mention is be careful of your sentiments. If you have a sentiment, you want to make sure you cut it in the right direction so that your sentiment isn't upside down. So do keep that in mind when you're using any kind of words or something that has a pattern to it. So I'll put the plaid on the left side, and let's go ahead and put the happy birthday sentiments on the right side. And I just love these colors. We've colored in our little ladies to coordinate with these papers. I did pre-select the papers just so you know that, so that all my colors would go together nicely. Now to close this up, I just need a bead of glue on the bottom of each of these triangle panels. And then if you want to make sure it's really secure, you can put a little dot of glue right there in the center. So that's going to create that little pocket that we need. And with that little leftover strip of paper that we had from earlier, I'm going to attach that to the bottom of this panel. I wanted to bring in a few of those little sprinkles, the sprinkles you would see on the donuts. So I'm going to place that on. Now I will clarify again that I really like this, and I wanted to leave this in so that you can see that that size is very nice. But I decided it maybe wasn't sturdy enough, so I decided to cut it down just a little bit more so that it will fit on this green panel. So it's now 4¾ by 3½ inches. And this green panel will measure 5 inches by 3¾ inch and will fit nicely inside. And I'm going to glue these two together because I want to make sure that, again, I wanted something a little bit more sturdy for the inside pocket. But again, I left the other sizing in so that you don't have to do this. If you want that pretty sprinkle paper to show when you pull out that little card from inside the pocket, then you wouldn't want to add this green cardstock. But I did. I thought it gave it a little bit more substance. And then I'm grabbing another piece to die cut this little tab for the top of our pocket. These are the journal rectangle frames from Art Impressions, and you've got all kinds of really cute little frames. There's even a little set of leaves in there. It's a really nice set. Goes really well with your journals. And I'm going to stamp on this little tab. I'm going to grab that sentiment that says, "Have a sweet day," and then for the inside we'll use "Frappy Birthday." So let's do the inside of the card first. I'm going to line this up in the Mini Misty, and then I'm going to ink that up with that Versafine Onyx Black ink that we used earlier. And I'll just center that on this panel. And then for that little tab, again, I've grabbed that sentiment that says, "Have a sweet day," and I'm going to place that on the lower section of this tab, and it fits perfectly. So I was really excited about that because I wanted something on this little tab, and this sentiment is perfect. So let's go ahead and stamp that. Now all we have to do is attach this. There is a score line when you die cut it right down the center, so I folded it on the score line, placing plenty of glue inside, and let's glue this little tab at the top, and I'm just centering that. For the ladies, I don't want glue or tape to come up above that triangular area. So I'm just marking with a pencil where I want my 3D foam dots to be. So I drew a little line across there just to make sure I don't put them too high. Let's place plenty of these 3D foam squares around the back of this. And then I'm going to use my Cricut weeding tool just to remove the backing. It's really easy to use that little pokey end of the tool to pop those right off. And then let's go ahead and place this down. And you can see now that by modifying that stamp a little bit, it fits easily on the front of this little pocket. I've got these beautiful gems. These are little white gems, and they're so sparkly, and they kind of have a really iridescent-y look to them, and they seem to pick up the colors that are around them a little bit. So these were perfect. I'm going to use my Marvy jewel picker and just place these down just kind of randomly across the card for a little bit of sparkle. And then for a little bit more sparkle, I've got my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen. I'm kind of just tapping that on. Since the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens are a water-based pen, you want to be careful when you're adding a water-based product over the top. You don't want to undo all that blending you've already done. Let's take a closer look at this finished card. And again, you could put a gift card on the back of that panel or inside this little pocket. And look how cute they are. This is a fun little set. It is an exclusive set, and it is offered just for a limited time. And so I hope you're able to pick up one. I've got all the links for everything down below as well as on my blog. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.